Hey, welcome to Life After Addiction Indictment. This is Steve Cloward, your host, and I've got a good friend and a mentor of mine, Nate Bailey. Nate, welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you, man.
Hey, Steve, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here too, so appreciate it.
Hey, you bet. I've been thinking quite a bit this morning about really what I wanted to talk about and maybe ask you about. And I thought it'd be good to kind of give a little backstory on how I met you and kind of the impact you have had on me coming out of my situation with addiction indictment and how I was struggling for so many years. And I've had several coaches and been to several events and things. And I'm not here to, I've already told you how I feel. I'm not here to toot your horn and kiss your ass, for lack of a better way to put it. But
right.
There's a lot of people that have said things and been part of my journey. But to be totally honest, you're the one that really probably has had the biggest impact as far as really, the things that you talk about and teach, and just watching you has had the biggest impact on me from really my mindset. And, going to your event in November, I'll let you talk about your event in a little bit, but that was fantastic. But I'd already been exposed and have been kind of seeing you and watching you for 3.5 years or 4. And so I'd love to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that you do to really push yourself and how your mindset plays a part in approaching those and then also getting through those. For example, 100-mile deal that you've run. What from a mindset standpoint, how do you approach that, or how do you feel like that's helped you in those situations to actually succeed at them? Some of you failed, but you stuck with it. Most people, I think, kind of quit and are okay with, well, I attempted, man, I gave it a good effort. And then also how that has helped you in your business life.
Yeah. Well, like you said, we met, that was beginning of 2017, right?
Yeah. So I think it was just 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Right now.
Through a coaching program and going through that together. And I was really on that journey of, like what you say, of just developing and building that mindset, because I had kind of been in a place in life not too long before that where I was just super unfulfilled, not happy, just, was even overweight, and just like a lot of things in my life weren't working out very well. And and then for me, like what really drives me is when I'm taking physically, and I'm really pushing myself physically, when I have a big kind of target in front of me, whether it's a 100-mile run, doesn't always have to be a 100-mile run, but
right.
that was a big one for me over the last few years. I did a SEAL Fit Coral, which was a 52-hour kind of military style event that I went through.
That's unbelievable.
But it's really all about the journey, and it's who you have to become to be successful. And like you said, the 100 miles, I failed twice along the way, 2 different 100-mile attempts, and still made it at 62 miles the first time, 70, almost 6 miles the second, before I accomplished the 100. But it would, it was, again, to who I had to become was, you talk about life after addiction and your journey when it came to, opiates and drugs. And, for me, pain pills, right? For me, the addiction, an addiction, but it was an addiction of just taking care of my body and being addicted to the person that I wanted to be. And that's what it really does come down to, that, right? It's to
100%.
to change, to become someone different in a way. I haven't really thought about it too much this way, but just because of the name of your show, it's like, it is an addiction that you develop to want to be better, to want to be different. And you realize what's required. And along that way, you develop this mindset, like you mentioned. I wrote the 100-mile mindset afterwards, because it really is this mindset that's developed to run 100 miles that's required because there's lots of opportunities for you to quit and go home, or, you know, because it's painful, you're tired, it's a long ass ways, and it's a long time to cover 100 miles. Well, for me anyways. And
for anybody.
and so, you know, you gotta be addicted to the work that's required, and that work that's required isn't always the most satisfying in the moment, right? It's not always, there's plenty of other things that I could probably think of that I would rather do, but that's when you got to recognize and have that mindset to remember that, well, it's a little bit painful right now, but what's the pain or the cost or the consequence down the road if I don't do it now, right? Which is, you know, for me, could be, you know, not being that example for my kids and them looking to someone else that I don't approve of. It could be health issues, right? Not taking care of my body now, and down the road, I end up paying for it because I'm not choosing wisely. I'm not taking care of my body. So yeah, I guess hopefully that paints a little better picture.
Yeah. What was the experience like as you're kind of prepping to approach that the first time? And as far as, you know, I imagine there had to be times where doubt crept in or stories crept in that tried to stop you. I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and this gal that you may even know her, it's Shanae. She interviewed Grant Cardone, you know, and she was she was talking about, or he was talking about being on this undercover billionaire, and the first 6 days, how, you know, the stories were happening to him, and how he was asking himself, what in the hell am I doing this for? Why did I agree to this? This is stupid, you know. You know, so obviously as human beings, we battle that. I mean, so have you been able to get to the point where you've trained yourself in a way to, because until you're aware of it, how can you change it, right?
Yeah.
So, because that's one of the things that I've really been trying to work on is catch the thoughts I'm having and then challenging, you know, what they are, because really they're all just BS or just thoughts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I just like what you just shared with Grant Cardone. It's awesome when you hear someone like that, because, you know, you never truly know how it is for somebody. You just get to see
the good,
what they let you see. But at the same time, for him to say and to admit that, like, hey, you know, he was having these questioning thoughts, right? Of these self-limiting beliefs, really, in a way, of like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? So I don't need to be doing this. And that's the same. I think it's when you're taking anything on that's big, we all have it. And I think that's something important to realize, that you will always experience it. Like, you know, I have a podcast. I created this program called 100 Days to Greatness, just based on the 100 episodes of this podcast, Integrity Bank. And so I'm revisiting these episodes as they're coming through. You know, I recorded them a long time ago, kind of forget what you talked about, right? And one of them was new level, new devil, of like, there's always this new level that you reach. And when you continue pushing yourself, there's always going to be these thoughts from the other side coming and be like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Like, you know, just chill out, just relax. You don't need to do this. You know, all the things that are trying to keep you from growing and continuing to get a little bit better. We all go through them, but I think when you are addicted to becoming that better person to get where you want to go, like you said, you almost, number one, you expect it, right? You expect to have those thoughts, and you don't think anything about it. And number two, you just know that if I move through them, if I just push them off to the side, they might not totally go away, but you just know if you keep in action and you keep moving forward, that eventually you'll forget about it, or you'll get to the result and then it'll be well worth it. Right. So just continuing to recognize that, hey, those are always going to be there, and I'm just going to continue to move forward anyways. And so when you continue to put yourself in those situations, I found that it's easier to handle those, right? Because they're always going to be there.
Yeah. I think, you know, through my journey, as I've kind of looked back and tried to reflect on things to see, you know, where I kept getting hung up, or what were the things that benefited me moving through, you know, stepping into, you know, it's like they say, you know, we've all heard it, you know, to really be able to grow and, you know, level up, so to speak, you know, you've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I was scared shitless, for lack of a better way to put it, joining one of the groups where we met, and I was intimidated as heck. And, you know, And then even just going in November to your event, Unleash the Leader Within, I wasn't intimidated. I was in a
Yeah.
much different space, but,
Yeah. Right.
still a little uncomfortable. I've always had a little bit of social anxieties for whatever reason.
Sure.
I don't know. And I really don't care.
Yeah.
But I think for those that are listening who are, maybe hung up or stuck or want to chase their dreams because maybe they have dealt with addiction and they've got their past getting in the way because maybe people judge them, or maybe they've got that big F on their forehead like me, you've got to be able to take control of your own life, because you're going to get doors slammed in your face. You're going to get rejected. You're going to have people judging you that don't even know you. And that's why I love the entrepreneurial journey and spirit of what it can do for your life. But as I took those steps and did those things, I didn't have big transformations overnight or anything like that.
Right.
But, just like the things that you push through, and as we challenge ourselves, when you come out that other side, there's lots of gifts often, but for sure, every time one of them is going to be increased belief in yourself and confidence. And as I've looked back and reflected on my struggle until I pushed through it, that was 100% what I lacked, and I needed to be around people like you and other people, because that did help me, get through and put myself in positions that otherwise I would have just sat back in my office, continue to grind, and really was stagnant. In fact, I probably, I don't know what the best way to put it is, but I went backwards, really.
Yeah.
Because just like they say, we're only as good as 5 people we're around the most,
Yeah.
And so I've committed moving forward, no matter what, I'm going to continue, even if I'm at levels I want to be, or, I'm still going to continue to put myself in those rooms and go to your events and other events, because I know the power of being around people that are like-minded or they're committed to growing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's so important. And it's, it doesn't matter. I think you look at all levels, people that are living a life that maybe you would like to live. And again, there's always a caveat to that, because, you get to see the highlights sometimes, and you might think somebody's doing way better than they are, which I think is an important thing to realize, that because we see so many highlights it can tend to really beat a horse when they're down. Like if you're really down and then you see everybody else winning, it's not that you're not happy for them, but when you're in that place, it's hard to see it, because you're like, man, when is it going to happen for me? Or like, when am I going to catch that break? And everybody's kind of low point is different, right? Some are lower than others. And I know how hard it is when you're in those moments, because it just feels like the world is crashing and coming down. And I don't want to talk about it lightly, because it is hard to get through those times. I could sit here and see, well, you just need to keep moving. You just got to get clear on why it's important. You just got to become addicted to the pain in the process. Like those are all really easy things to say. So I don't want to diminish the difficulty of it from time to time, but it is something that if you are able to even just keep moving just a little bit, if you're like really in a bad spot, like if you can, because I know how hard it is to get moving when you're in that place.
Yep.
And but if you just have to know that if you don't, and you just stay where you are, and you just continue going down that hole of, my world is falling apart and I don't have anywhere to go. Like you just got to know that that's moving, even if it's just a little bit, is way better than just sitting where you are, right? And
so true.
As much as you don't want to, and then over time, eventually, and it's a little bit different for everyone on how fast you could maybe get through that, is it'll that load that you feel like you're carrying will start to lighten up, and things will start to happen in your life, and then you'll start to see some of the progress and results, and just things will shift.
So true.
But yeah, it's like I always kind of, I don't want to just be like, hey, you just gotta muscle through it. You got to toughen up. You got to trust the process. You got to keep moving. You got to say your affirmations and do your gratitude, and you'll be fine, or whatever. Those are all true and they all work. But it's I just want to acknowledge.
I think that's really important. Most people don't hear that. And,
Yeah.
you know, when you're depressed, I have a picture right over there on my wall of my best friend from high school that died of colorectal cancer. And I've been very depressed in my life.
Yeah.
And when I try to explain to somebody what that was like, that knew me and my buddy's relationship, I say, picture Cody coming back into my life, like coming back alive, walking in my office. You know, we've been on the golf team in high school. And if he said, hey, I got a private jet, we've got the next 30 days to go all over the world, unlimited funds to play golf on the best golf courses, do whatever we want. When you're depressed, I could honestly say, I don't feel like that.
Yeah, I don't want
to.
to.
I literally
Yeah,
see
no
myself
thanks.
saying, I don't
Yeah.
care. And
Yeah.
that's how messed up it is. And
Right.
so I think the real important thing you said is, as we see the highlight reel of most people, you know, that's where I was getting stuck.
Yeah.
Because
I
I had
believe it.
been on top, so to speak, you know,
Yeah. Right.
from a business and financial standpoint. And I had forgotten also that I didn't get there overnight the first time.
Yeah.
It seemed like
Right.
it, looking, you know, at the time.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I think what you said was so critical, that even if you're in that spot, even if you feel like crap and you just take a tiny baby step, man, that's movement.
Yeah.
And so don't get
Absolutely.
hung up comparing on where the end thing is that you think you should be at, because then you'll just stay stuck, because that's overwhelming. And then you'll never even think, well, I can't ever get there.
Yeah. I mean,
know?
you can almost argue to like, just, especially if you're in that place, it's not good to become recluse and just, you know, avoid people.
Makes it worse.
Because you do need people to get through it. But I think you could definitely strongly argue that it's probably a good idea to just get all social media off your phone, especially when you're in those times.
Yeah.
And just to purely focus on yourself. Yeah. Like, you have people around you that you can call and you can be around in person.
Yeah.
To help you through those times, because it's not good to isolate. But at the same time, it's probably a good idea to just get off social media, because you're just seeing the highlight reels, which is okay. It's nothing wrong. You know, it's good for people to share things that are going well. But again, people aren't always sharing the real story. And so then now you just like completely, you're already down, and then you just feel like you continue to get beat down. So,
right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's huge. That's great advice. I mean, I use it for one thing, and that's one thing only, and try to, you know, you got to at least be aware of what you're seeing and how it is affecting you. Because I don't think most of us have a clue how much it really does affect us, you know?
Right.
And even if that, you know, if you're in that spot and you just feel like crap, even if you can just realize where you're at, and sometimes you just have to be okay with it, you know, because you can buy into that and just let it take you even worse, you know, if you start beating yourself up.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And I think what you said earlier too is, we don't see everybody else's real true lives behind the scenes, but nobody's immune. Everybody has difficulties. Everybody has setbacks and challenges, you know, and it's just, like I said early on, it's got to start in the mind and being aware of what's happening. But then, you know, I think one of the biggest things that finally really impacted me too is when, you know, we worked on it. I think it was, they called a conscious self-creation statement. And I got to the point where I really dialed one in and memorized it. And it got to the point where I would be triggered to say it right every morning when I'd step across the threshold into the shower.
Oh, really?
And and I'd just say
great.
it. And I was talking to a kid this morning who reached out and was trying to join one of our sales teams. And we were talking about that stuff because he had some difficulties in 2019. And, you know, as I look back on that, it was for about 3 years that I was saying those things. And I had a guy comment in my group last night who was just struggling because of fear, and he's dealt with addiction and he's got the judgment, and, you know, he's been successful. And, you know, as I thought about kind of where I was at exactly in his shoes, we don't understand the power of what's happening in our subconscious.
Yeah.
And so when we're saying, you know, a statement like, you know, I am this or I am that, or I've got abundance and opportunities flowing to me consistently, whatever it is, as if it's already happened, and literally feeling that, I can look back at the 3 years I've done that and like I said, I was doing that last night as I was responding to this guy, and all but two things have manifested in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
Amazing.
It is truly crazy, you know?
And you know, you said it because it's like, because subconsciously you're telling yourself a complete, the worst possible story, right? And you don't realize it. And so you do have to consciously practice that, like you said, and it's so powerful.
It truly is. Yeah. So if you're struggling and, you know, that's the only thing you start with, hey man, that will impact you. Just don't have the thoughts I did that it's going to change things tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
you know,
yeah, right. Yeah, like anything, right?
Just trust the process. I think I've heard you say that many times, you know, you just have to trust the process. And just like money compounding, the little things make the biggest difference, but you just got to be consistent, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, cool. So tell me a little bit about your, well, you've got a couple of books, right?
Yeah. I do technically. Yeah. I have so 2015, I decided I wanted to write a book. So it was, I think it was called, I can't even remember right now, but
I could find it probably.
I think it's called Leading a Legacy Lifestyle. I think that's what it was. It was just kind of really where I was at in my journey and sharing my story, because that was really the beginning of me getting on the path that I'm on today and, you know, shortly before I first met you. And then the second book that I wrote was Living a Legacy Lifestyle, or live your legacy. And
I've got that.
And that included a 90-day roadmap. And then the third book, the most recent one, was the 100-mile mindset, kind of my journey on taking out 100 miles and seeing if I can do it, and sharing really just the whole experience that I went through.
How long did it take to do the wins and the losses?
How long? So I was actually out by you, the Pony Express 100 on the Pony Express Trail. And I finished in just over 29 hours.
Damn.
And you have 30 hours to finish, to like for it to count, right?
Yeah.
And so, just over 29 hours. And pretty much the last 20, I was basically walking the whole way.
Really?
I was just, my body, my knees and my feet were really blistered up. My left ankle was the size of a softball, and
oh my gosh,
my knees were pretty sore, but the feet were probably the worst. Just every step, on blistered up feet is a bit painful.
So how did you feel after you got done and kind of, outside of the physical pain, like what did you think? What did you feel?
Yeah, it's interesting because, Jake, McLeod,
he's there. Coming over here.
Yeah, he's here.
He's going to be over here in 30 minutes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Say hi to him for me.
All right.
But yeah, he supported me. He was like, he drove the truck and he had all my food and my water, and then he videoed the journey as well. And so as I finished, he just asked me on camera, like, and what are you thinking? Or like, how are you feeling? And I was just like, I didn't have anything to say. I was just like, it felt good to be done, which is something that I've learned, that a lot of times that finish line is kind of empty. And it's not that it wasn't empty, but in a way it kind of was. Like, I didn't have any I didn't have any friends or family there other than Jake. There were like two people at the finish line handing out medals to people and shaking their hand. And then it was like, all right, that's it. It felt really good. Of course I was tired. It's an accomplishment that I'm proud of. And so it's one of those things that I think it took a little time once we, to really be able to reflect but it was, it's a little bit, it's not maybe what I thought or some people might think it is when you finish.
Yeah.
It was still felt good. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, it had to. Yeah. I think that's important, because something I've really come to terms with and realized, really not just in the last few weeks, honestly, that I've really bought into. I mean, I've kind of believed it always, but never kind of lived it, is most of the enjoyment is the process.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about before, there's no finish line. I mean, there's a finish line in the race, but
right.
in our journey here, there's really no finish line, because no matter what it is that you accomplish, it doesn't end.
Yep.
You know, the race ended, but
Yeah.
that wasn't the end, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you're in the running world, you've probably heard of Dean Carnazzi, but he did 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 days. And I had him on my podcast, Championship Leadership Podcast. And I asked him about it because I remembered reading that book like 10 years before I have him on my podcast. Here he is on my podcast, which is kind of surreal,
crazy. Yeah.
Like, was super nice guy, just a super good guy. But I asked him, I was like, so, what was it? Because I remember in the book, he finishes the New York Marathon, which is the last one, and he sends his family home and he says, I'm gonna run back. He started, because he if you can imagine this 50 states, 50 days, everywhere he went, he had media and he had to run, and he's with his family in an RV, and it just, I guess in a way that the finish line was empty for him. And he's like, when you get to the end, basically what he said on the podcast is like, when you get to the end, like, keep going, basically. He's like, there is no end. And so, that's what he did. He just kept going. He's like, I need some time by myself to just process it and decompress. And he just kept running.
Well, I think that's huge.
Literally like Forrest Gump.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's the key, is I finally was able to overcome some of my mental hurdles and really realize and buy into it, even though I knew it, meaning knew that nothing happens overnight. I just was being impatient because I had been there. And so I was losing focus because I was just scrambling and just all over the place, thinking I was just going to find something to get me there tomorrow. And that's just not the way it works. So if you can just buy into the process, like you said, build those tiny little wins, do those little things, because that's where that confidence slowly builds, and the momentum slowly comes, and then it just snowballs,
Yeah.
So it's really cool as you watch people go through it. But it's really cool to be part of, somebody's journey. And I couldn't have done it without you and some of the other guys that I've met,
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful for that.
It's been fun to see, you on your journey and how much you've changed over the time that I've known you, like huge, significant, just in your confidence and your certainty, coming out of prison and addiction and dealing with coming back. I can only imagine, right, some of the things you had to go through, like you said, like going back home, coming back into your family, coming back into your community. What are other people thinking? Like all those things that I imagine would go through your head I would imagine would go through mine. And then to see where you are today is awesome, man.
Hopefully I'm just getting started. But the thing that's nuts about that is, as I've looked back at it, what are people thinking, all that? Most of the time,
they weren't.
The only people thinking anything was me.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Yeah.
They don't
That's
care.
a huge realization, but it takes a while to get to that point, doesn't it?
It's so true. Yeah. And the ones that do think it, I lived by the mantra, meaning I believed it and I would say it to myself, but obviously I didn't really internalize it. But as far as my relationships went, not just family, but, business and other relationships, I just bought into and would tell myself, for those that know me, no explanation is necessary. For those that don't, no explanation will be good enough. So it's like when we worry about what others are saying and stuff, they're not, but the few that might be, they don't matter anyway.
Yeah, you don't want them in your life anyway, right?
Yeah, and really they're only talking smack because they're in a place
something's
that they're trying to feel better about themselves. So it's really not about you anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
I think the battle for me, and I think really the way it comes down to, it's really our battle with ourselves.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So, well, cool. Talk to me. I was fortunate to go with my son back here, Unleash the Leadership Within, Unleash the Leader Within, back in Iowa in early November. Talk to us a little bit about what that is, and where people kind of check it out and check you out, and
you bet.
Can connect with you.
Yeah, it was it was beautiful weather in November in 70s, which is weird, but just I really do care about the clients that I work with and helping people and helping them living the life that they want to, taking, helping them take it take their life to the next level. And so, a lot of the journey that I've been on and what I've done as an officer in the Army to, serial entrepreneur to being a full-time coach for the last 3.5, 4 years, he created the Unleash the Leader Within to help, because in order to lead others, you got to lead yourself first. So there's a big focus on that, especially in that first day of, we do some physical stuff, but we keep it fun and give some, create some competition and get you to push yourself a little harder than you would without someone else, and add a little physical pressure and stress to see how you adapt and respond. Because when we're in life, things don't go the right way, and when you're leading, you gotta be able to stay calm in that chaos. And so we have some fun and do some of that, and we get a lot of clarity, work on getting massive clarity on the direction and path that you want to go, and really what outcomes you want to set for yourself, and talk about how you can lead yourself powerfully throughout your day. And then, because I don't want it to just be me, and I have a lot of great connections and great friends that are very knowledgeable and have a lot of experience in different fields. You got Mike Young, the makeover master, branding, design, strategy, lead gen, just really very well versed in knowledge, and has a ton of experience, and has been on a similar journey to a lot of us. This next one coming up, I got some, times are tough financially for a lot of people. So I was like, who can I bring in to really help people inside of their finances and help them to create some more money without having to go make a bunch more first in order to do it. And some cool strategies from Michael Lush on Replace Your Mortgage to help people save tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars through a strategy that he's been teaching thousands of others for the last 4 or 5 years.
I read about that. That's what's got me I want to come anyway, just to be in the room with other guys, but.
And he's so it's just
powerful.
Bringing all these people together to really, I want you to come out of that feeling like, man, this was a steal, and they should charge way more for this, because especially right now where we're all at, we're all hurting a bit as a country. Mm-hmm. And so how can I really just create an incredible experience for people? The connections that you guys get together going through that experience as participants is so powerful. I mean, that alone, the value of that, I know for me personally, coming through different experiences has been huge. If I got nothing else other than the relationships that I've got, even with you, I mean, it's just priceless, really. So that's what it's all about. Business owners and even professionals and the high level executives that want to be better leaders. We talk a lot about leadership, championship leadership throughout the 3 days. Communication, talk about conscious self-creation, like you said, and just mapping out your life and learning actual skills that you can actually take and implement and see a return very, very shortly after is what I want. Because a lot of seminars, they'll give you just enough so that you got to take it to the next level to get the full nugget, right? I don't want that. There's a next step. And I do want to spend time in people's lives in my coaching program outside of that, but I'm not going to hold anything back for you to make that decision, right? We're going to have a powerful experience together and do life together afterwards if that's, the fit for them. But that's what it's all about. And, I just love doing it. I love putting those experiences on. Yeah,
I can tell you, someone's been there. It's worth way more than what you're charging, like you said. And I know kind of person you are, and you are given everything, like you said, there's so many people out there that are, enticing you to take a step and invest. And then you're like, damn, well, that's not really the full blueprint.
Yeah, that's really not what I thought this was. Yeah, exactly.
So where can
I've been
people
there too? Yeah, for sure.
Check more out about it.
Yeah. So, if you're interested, you could always send me a message at my website, natebailey.org, or find me on Facebook or Instagram, Coach Nate Bailey. Otherwise, the landing page will give you the link is ulwexperience.com/ULW.
And I'll get all that stuff in the show notes too. Yeah. So we'll post that stuff. Well, man, Nate, awesome, man. I sure appreciate your time, and be talking soon because I want to see.
Thank you. Absolutely. I hope you can. That'd be awesome.
Okay, buddy. Thanks again, and Happy New Year.
You too.
All right, bro.